Good morning, class. Today's lesson, we are going to start talking about the Ten Commandments. God gives the Ten Commandments, and last week, Sister Marilyn talked about God giving instruction. Now, God's going to go even deeper, and it's very important for us to have instructions. It's very important for us to have guidance because what God is doing when He gives these things, He's setting us up for success. So God will never do something that is going to make us fail. I'm happy to be back with you, and we're going to get right into this lesson. It's found in Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 17. And verses 1 through 3 reads, God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. This is very important. In Egypt, they had a lot of different gods. They had God for sun. They had God for land. They had God for water. They had God for rain. They had fertility gods. So the Israelites were, when they were in bondage, were surrounded by a nation who believe in different deities or gods. We're doing little g's. So this is what they were used to. This is what they were made to worship, although they still believe in God. They still pray to God to come out of bondage. Now you're completely out of it. You don't have to go back into it. And that's what we have to realize. We're out of bondage. There's a lot of things that God has delivered us from, a lot of little g's, a lot of deities that God has delivered us from. We don't have to go back, but you can choose to go back. Difference. Once God has delivered you, don't put any other God before Him. Look what He has done. Also, in delivering the Israelites out of bondage, He humiliated every single one of their deities. Every single time Pharaoh tried to bring a sorcerer to prove that he can do the same thing that Moses is doing with his staff, or every time they prayed to their God to stop the progression of the Israelites' exodus from Egypt, God went ahead and destroyed everything that they thought could work. So this is what we need to realize, that the many different gods, the pagan gods, if you will, um, we're not even going to bring that. What God was saying is that you're not even going to bring that back into your remembrance. Because now I'm really laying down the law. Before I gave you instruction on where to go and how to get there, but now I'm going to give you instruction on how to live your daily life. You're going to apply these morals to your everyday life. And this is law. The Ten Commandments became the Mosaic law. Verses 4 through 6. Thou shalt not make unto thee any grave image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. I showeth mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. So we're going to go verse by verse. Verse 4. Thou shalt not make unto thee any grave image. Do not carve your likeness on what God is. Do not build a statue of him and then begin to worship it. Simple as that. You don't know what God looks like. Last time I checked, his glory, he's so glorious, he's so wonderful that you can't lay eyes on him. Every time someone was in his presence, anytime someone had a vision of being taken to heaven and having Jesus sit upon the right hand of the Father and the cherubim surrounding him, he was so glorious that you couldn't even look on his face. So how are you going to carve an image and call this God and worship it? It's not who he is. You worship him. His spirit is here. He is a living God. He doesn't need to be put inside of stone. He doesn't need to be put inside of wood. He doesn't need to be put inside of gold. He is who he is. He doesn't need you to do that. What he says is worship him and do not worship any other deity that has been put inside of a statue, which in this time, that is what the pagans would do. So you would go to their cities and they would have statues of deities all around, and people would worship these deities. They would worship these gods. They would sing praises to them. And God says in the fourth verse, don't minute me, don't belittle me pretty much into this stupid piece of wood. I'm not a piece of wood. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I created all that is, and you will not put me into a piece of wood or into a piece of stone to worship me. Worship me for who I am. Verse 5, thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the father upon the children of the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Once again, do not bow yourself down to these pagan gods that I delivered you from, nor into where you're going to go. Don't bring them back. Don't bring them back. I didn't took you out that bondage. Don't you bring that back. And he also is saying, when he talks about visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children, the third and fourth generation, he's talking about children who are carrying on this so-called tradition or this practice. These are the ones I have issues with. These are the ones who are not recognizing how I delivered them. These are the ones that I will not show my mercy on. These are the ones that I will judge. But in verse 6, he will show his mercy to the thousands who will keep his commandments. So he's setting up what's going to happen. He's setting up what you are to do and what you're not going to do. And then I'm going to give you the actual commandments. God always has perfect order. He's not just going to throw these commandments at you and then you go, all right, what am I supposed to do? He always has perfect order. All right. Going into verse 7. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. We need to be very, very, very careful what we do when we take the Lord's name in vain. This is a disrespect to the Lord. When we talk about taking the Lord's name in vain, um, we're doing no good to God. We're showing him a disrespect. We are, once again, belittling him. We are putting him in a place, once again, of the little g's, the gods. We are not holding him up to his rightful glory. We are diminishing his honor, what he has done for us. And so be very careful on how you use the Lord's name, for it is nothing to play with. It's not a joke. It's not to be used in a punchline. It's not to be used in a sitcom series to give you laughs and giggles. This is not what the Lord is for. And that is taking his name in vain. Verses 8, 9, 10, and we'll do 11. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy maidservant, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within the gates. For in the 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hath hallowed it. This is something that we in this society have moved away from. Growing up in California, I know that the Jewish community took the Sabbath day extremely serious. It was very holy. They didn't even drive their cars. They walked everywhere they had to walk. The women prepared their food the night before, so no cooking had to happen the day of the Sabbath. Um, they gathered and they fellowshiped with each other outside of going to the synagogues. Excuse me. And so you do have some cultures who do keep that sacred. I want us to learn how to keep it sacred. Just recently, this commandment right here touched my heart within the past a year or so, where it was a deal breaker if an employer required me to work on Saturdays and Sundays. The reason for that is, number one, I should not be so tired where I cannot give worship and praise to God. It should never happen. I should not inundate myself that much with ways of the world, what matters, that I cannot stop and tell the Lord thank you. And honestly tell him thank you. Not going into church, I'm sleeping, I'm slumped over, I'm wishing that the word would be spoken and we can move. No, I shouldn't be that tired. And so this particular, in society right now, we still have things going on Saturday, we still have things going on Sunday. If a place is not open on the weekend, I'm telling you right now, we mad. You mean not open on the weekend? This is so stupid. What are you talking about? I said the same thing when I came here to Michigan from California. Oh my goodness, when I was in LA, this was open on the weekend. How dare you guys do this? We are moving further and further away. We're making more and more excuses. We're making it the norm to not follow this commandment. And this commandment is very serious. Our God created an entire world in 6 days and took time for rest. And we are saying that our 40, 60-hour a week job and our extracurricular activities will inundate our life so much that if I do rest, it definitely won't be to go into the house of worship. There's a problem. Or if my job costs me, I see this as, well, I get to make some extra money, so I gotta go. This is where we are showing that we're putting the Lord first. And this is why it was so important that this commandment came first. You're going to have to put me first. Because if you can't put me first, there is no way on earth you're going to follow the rest of these commandments. It ain't going to happen. We have to put the Lord first. Like I said, God was purposeful, He's meaningful, and He gave you each individual instruction, because each and every one of these instructions followed or precursed the next one, and it made sense. If I put no other God before you, therefore it should be no problem for me to keep the Sabbath day holy and to give you all the honor, because I'm not going to take your name in vain. God works, and He works in perfect peace. All right, going to verse 12. And verse 12 says, "Honor thy father and thy mother, that the days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee." Very important to honor your parents. I understand mine are still here in the land of the living, and I thank God for that. I thank God a lot of people do not have that. I'm still able to communicate with them, and although they may do things, I may say things to Jeffrey that just doesn't make sense. Why, why, why? You got to do it, because not only is it the commandment of God, but to honor someone who has taken their time to raise you, who is pouring in the knowledge and wisdom of God into you, who is guiding you on this journey of adulthood, of your child, your adolescence. Um, it is a hard task, and I will honestly say you don't appreciate it until it's your turn. So, my parents are watching this. Thank you. Verse 13, thou shalt not kill. Very simple. Don't you walk yourself out here, and it's happening today as we speak. Don't you walk yourself out here because you're angry at someone, because you disagree with someone and take a life. That life was not yours to take. God created all things, and in all time, in His time, things will work out according to His good. It is not up for you to be executioner, judge, and jury upon someone's life, because I can guarantee you what you're doing is not perfect. Thou shalt not kill. 14, thou shalt not commit adultery. We're talking about a husband and a wife stepping outside of their marriage. Now, any sexual immortality outside of marriage in general is wrong in the eyes of God. A wife and husband shall lay together. A wife and husband shall lay together. And what God was saying is that going outside of your marriage to find another man or another woman, that is a sin unto Him. Thou shalt not steal. Stop taking stuff. Stop eating the grapes before you buy them. Period. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. When we talk about thy neighbor, we don't just talk about the person who lives on your left and to your right. We're talking about every single person you come into contact with. Pretty much stop lying. Stop lying to make yourself look better. Stop lying to get someone in trouble. Stop lying to see things go your way. Stop lying. Whether that be to each other, whether that be to yourself, whether that be to the high courts, whether that be to your teachers so you can go ahead and get little Johnny in trouble. It doesn't matter. Whether that be to your parents so you can get your sibling in trouble. Doesn't matter. Stop lying. Verse 17, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor thy manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his oxen, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor. Very important. Be thankful pretty much for what you have. Do not lust, desire, want anything that someone else has so much that it consumes your everyday. Be thankful for what God has placed in your life. For what one person has is for them, and what God has given you is for you. Your desire to take, your desire to have, your desire to want should not consume you so much that every time you see this person with their belongings, their possessions, that is what you want. You coveting someone else's life is not what God has designed for you. God said that I have an expected end. He knows what He has for you. And so for you to look at someone else's and say, ah, man, I want that. No, you want what God has for you, because what God has for you guaranteed will be the right thing, and it will be long lasting. It will not move away from you. So let's keep these things in our heart. I know that, yes, this is a different time, but it's not so different, because everything that was happening in this day is surely happening today as we speak. Let's remember that we should always keep God first, and our sacrifice to Him will be rewarded. The things that you do on the Sabbath day are not so important that we forget about God. God is the one who took time to breathe life into us. God was the one who took time to create us, to ensure that we had everything that we needed. He gave us instruction for success, not just for success to get into heaven, but He's giving you something for your spiritual growth. You need spiritual growth. We have to start feeding our spirit. And what are we feeding our spirit? Well, He's given us instruction on what to feed our spirit, on what to do to keep our spirit right, to keep us in line with Him. We have to stay in line with Him so we can go ahead and hear His voice. But if we're too busy worried about these deities, these other gods, what our generation did before us, God is giving you the way to go now. We need to move forward. We need to do as God has instructed us, and we need to give thanks to Him every single chance we get. Thank you, class, for joining me. I can't wait to meet with you afterwards and have a little conversation about how we can consistently improve on our relationship with God. Happy Sunday.